Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Big Bill coming to you live from my dining room. We're not broadcasting from the International House of South Brooklyn Railroad tonight because we're renovating the house. We're putting down new flooring, and everything had to get taken out of the living room, dining room, and put into the train room. So I have been. The train room is being used as a storage facility right now. So I have ultimate permission from the land superintendent to use the dining room, and that's what we're doing. So, welcome to Model Railroading Live. Who's Big Bill talking to? Model Railroading Live, the number one model railroading show in the world, if not the universe. Why? Because I say so. That's why. Pretty good show we have coming up for you, and I hope we have always fulfilled that obligation of producing and getting good content out to you guys in the community and women as well. Special guest tonight. It's not really Big Bill. Who's Big Bill talking to? I have to correct that. This is not who's Big Bill talking to. This is the track planner. What is the track planner working on? This is the part 3 of his series. We're going to see if we're going to do a part 4. He will let us know if he's going to be doing a part 4. But tonight's show will be the part 3 of the track planner and what is the track planner working on. With that said, I want to let you guys know that tomorrow night, Thursday the 17th, which by the way is St. Patrick's Day, big deal here in New York City. The St. Patrick's Day parade will be down Fifth Avenue and stuff, and everybody will be Irish tomorrow. But tomorrow is St. Patrick's Day, so a happy St. Patrick's Day to all of you guys out there and women. Also, tomorrow night is Johnny's Train Talk Show. That will be on Thursday evening, 9 p.m. at Eastern Standard Time, and that's where you, the community, can join in just like you're doing now with the Q&A. And you can also be a part of the show if you have a video camera and internet. You can be on the show as well. And you can bring and brag and talk about anything model railroad related. So that's tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then on Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to have the Build, B-U-I-L-D show with Andy Crawford, Robert Holloman, and Ralph Renzetti. Andy will be discussing an upcoming project of a bridge that he's building for his layout. And it's basically step by step in what he's going to do and how he's going to do it. And he's going to have a panel of Robert Holloman, also of the Empire Railroad Empire show, and Ralph Renzetti, aka the Mudfather, he'll be on as well. So who do we have in the audience tonight for a little bit of let's see. I just got a new computer, so I'm trying to figure out. The hamsters died on the last one. So who do we got here? We got John's Train, BRGR. Welcome, Grandpa Rails. Derek Alexander. Dan's Model Railroading Journey. Robert Holloman's in the house. Hey, Robert. Wag Workshop is also right here. Rail Artist is here. Let's see who else. I said Derek, Jan Grandpa. Lynn McCurdy and the HDMMRC. Let's see. Albert Mason is here. Andy Crawford's in the house. Andy, how are you? Let's see. Melvin Flacker. I hope I said that right, Melvin. Let's see. And Sam Dickerson and William Raleigh is with Sam Dickerson, I believe. James Reed. Scott Thornton is here. Hey, Scott. Long time no see. If you guys are interested, Scotty's hobby shop. He has a hobby shop for 3D printing. I bought some stuff off him, and Scott is the person who does the control throttle. You guys are interested in that? Just saw on what's his name's. Who is it? Sue Line. He upgraded his throttle. But Scott has a Scotty's model railroading shop. He's very good stuff, 3D printed stuff, and other stuff that I purchased. I bought his track cleaner, very good. Very, I've been using it wildly on my layout. It works well, gives you the great cleaning. Uh, Melvin Flacker says, "Bill, I've been called worse. Me and you both, brother. Me and you both." So anyway, Scott's in the house. James Reeves in the house. Let's see. Everybody's in the house. So let's see. Let's see if we can get Mr. Baronic to pull him away from the buffet that we set up in the green room. We set it up and we put new. We got cold cuts and all kinds of goodies in there. So let's hope we can pull him away. Got the new couch too. Hey, Bill, how are you?
I'm great, Billy. Thank you.
Good.
I'm good.
I hope that buffet we set out in the green room was good enough for you.
There was some of the food was about the same color as that wall behind you. Was that okay to eat?
Did you eat it?
I can't remember.
First of all, did you sign the disclaimer?
No, I did not.
Well, then don't eat it.
Okay.
And I have no idea what that food was. I didn't even know it was out there. So I have no knowledge of anything.
Okay.
No knowledge.
Claiming ignorance is really sometimes the best approach.
That's me, Mr. Ignorant. I could have been the head of the family. I'm smart.
Yeah, I resemble that remark.
I resemble that remark. Well, thanks for coming on. It's been we did 2 shows. We got them in the book, and this is part 3.
The first the first show for people who hadn't seen it was actually just a shelf layout I did for a gentleman who lived in New Zealand who was doing a phenomenal job of building it, by the way. And then the other show last month was on that Vermont triple deck layout, that big one that gentleman, because owns a cabinet making company, he's doing fabulous with that one too. Tonight we're going to change it up just a little bit. I'm going to show you an area of the country that very few people model, and it's in Oklahoma. And this is a layout that has approximately 260 feet of main line to it on 2 decks there, about 130 per deck. But we only model about 100 miles of Oklahoma.
Oklahoma's okay with me.
Yeah, and so it's a different. I was calculating this afternoon, getting ready for the show, and at 260 feet and the size of the room, I calculated that every 18 inches was 1 mile on this layout. So I never had calculated it that way before, but I think it's different. The gentleman is actually a very good friend of mine, and he literally lives about 5 minutes from me. And if it wasn't for trees, I could probably see his house from my house. That's how close we live together. And he's actually new to model railroading. He's only been in the hobby just a really short time, but I think you'll be really impressed with how he's doing it and what he's building. And I'll have a section at the end of this. He came up with some really slick and cool little ideas, tips, and tools to use building the layout. And some of them were so neat, I've included maybe a half a dozen of them in the program.
So how long is he? You said he's been in the hobby a short while.
I am sure it's less than 5 years, and it could be maybe no more than 3 years. And he's building you'll see it in the plan. The space he has for the layout is between the 700 and 750 square feet. And
did you two know each other? I mean,
he's the
community.
He's a member of the club. He joined the club. He's kind of a new member of the club, and he knew about me before he even joined the club through you guys and the other stuff that I do. And I went to breakfast one morning and with a bunch of guys that I usually go on Thursday morning, and he showed up, and he wanted to meet the track planner. And I says, well, this is no big deal. I told him, I says, and ended up, I designed a layout for him that he is now built. You'll see it. He's all the bench work is, well, I'd say 95% of the bench work is up, and he's starting to lay track.
Oh, okay.
So it's and this is one kind of an interesting one. He probably already has 75% close to it of all the buildings for the layout.
Oh, is he making scratch building them?
No, he doesn't. These are basically what he does, which is kind of a smart idea. Uh, he'll go to estate sales and he'll find buildings that are estates, and then if it doesn't fit his layout, then he'll kit bash it and change it
Oh,
up.
okay.
So,
All right.
yeah,
That
but
works.
it worked out great for me designing it because we had a lot of the buildings already, and I was able to plug the buildings in, make sure they fit where we wanted them to fit and everything.
Right.
So,
Right. All right.
okay.
What's his name?
His name is Chuck Bay, B-A-Y, and he
Chuck Bay.
yeah, he used to be in the service and that, and he was in the he's an electrical. I not exactly know what his term is, but he's very good with electronics. You're going to see he's using NCE, and you're going to see his electrical system that he's put together. The layout's divided into 3 blocks, 3 districts.
Okay.
And how he put that together, I got pictures of that are very interesting. And we're going to do the same thing tonight, Bill. We've done in the past ones. I'll go through the first half of it, explaining how we got to where we did. Second half, I'll be showing you the pictures of what he's doing.
All right, and then we also have the Q&A as soon as we get started.
And it seems like it's worked out well. Anybody that wants to ask a question, just please jump in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I get jabbering, I get talking, and it's really good. It's really good to shut me down once in a while.
Well, and we all thought you were just an ex-New Yorker moved out to Colorado.
Right.
No. That's why I'm here to run interference for you.
That's right. So
all right.
So
without further ado,
let's share it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Now, let's see if I can get it on here for us.
That's okay. All right. Late Night Model Railroad just walked in. Hello. Late Night Model Railroad.
All right. Let me see if I got it up here. I thought I had it up. It didn't come up. I'm going to shut this down for just a second here.
Go right ahead.
That might be why it didn't come up, is because I didn't have it up.
There you go. It's the little things in life, Bill.
It's the little things in life that do this. Okay, let me go back here. Get this down here. Let's get me back up. Now let's go back and share this.
Okay.
Okay. Why didn't it share?
Technology is great when it works.
When it works, it's fabulous, Billy. It's just fabulous. Okay, maybe that's the reason why. I'll cancel out, come back in again. There we go. Crisis has been averted.
What's the track planner working on? That's tonight's show for those that came in late.
Are we at full screen, guys?
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
This is what's the track planner working on, and this is the show for tonight with Bill Veronic, the track planner.
Okay. We'll go to work here. This screen you guys have seen before that have been watching these, but I'll go over it. The purpose of this program is to kind of give insight in how I take a client's dream and an idea, and I make it a reality using research, conceptualizing the plan, my knowledge of how real railroads work, and just years of track planning experience that I've got. In 2001, I retired from the business that I owned for almost 40 years. My wife and I moved to Colorado. 2002, I joined the Northern Colorado Model Railroad Club. We've got about 85 members in this club. I've been president, treasurer, on the board, all that stuff over the years. 2014, I started designing track plans professionally. And what I mean by professionally, I started charging for there. I had been doing them before. I just wasn't charging. The last show I did, I had this next line. I had that I'd done track plans in 6 different countries. Well, we can add one more to it, and it's the country and the island of Malta in the Mediterranean Ocean. I'm actually designing a layout for a gentleman that lives on Malta. We're about halfway through designing that. In about 2004, I started to work with a gentleman named James Adams, who owns Affordable Model Railroads. And I designed about 60% of his track plans. And he actually builds layouts. He does layouts, everything from bench work to full turnkey systems. As most of you know, I've done a lot of YouTube videos or instructional videos, and I write for the magazine, The Modeler's Journal. My philosophy is really pretty simple on design and track plans. I've got 7 elements I try to include in every track plan if possible. Not always, you can't always do it, but I try. Prototypical operations is absolutely number 1. I want the layout to be able to operate like a real railroad. So that's always at the top of the list. Walk around main lines. That is done so that you get the feeling of actually going somewhere with your train. You're just not standing in one spot, turning around in circles, watching your train run. My designs, you have to follow the train. You can't just stand in one place. I'm a firm believer in narrow bench work. Matter of fact, this layout you'll see here coming up, that was one of our primary objectives, was to keep the bench work narrow on it. Want long run main lines there. And I don't want so many cities that people are running trains and the engines are arriving in one town while the caboose is leaving another town. I don't think that's very prototypical. So I try to spread out the towns so that doesn't happen. Trains traveling through scenes once. That's one a lot of times people don't hear about or know about or think about even, but it's really important, and you can achieve that very easily with staging yards there. And of course, the other big one is doing peninsulas with view blocks. All of this helps make the layouts feel larger. As most of you know, I use AnyRail. They're up to version 6. I think I started using AnyRail when it was version 3. So I've been with them a long time. If you go on my website, you'll see this questionnaire. And if you're interested in hiring me and having me do a track plan, I have you answer these 25 questions, because it gives me a really good idea of your thought process and what you want from this track plan. So that's on my website. Let's talk about this client now, literally my neighbor, 5 minutes away. He has a finished basement there, and he finished the basement in this house with the idea of putting a layout in it. So the basement's about 1,100 square foot. The layout takes up probably about 750 of that space. The rooms over on the right side, he actually built those. And one is kind of a workshop office. He's kind of become more of an office more than anything else for him. He has the bathroom and he has the mechanical room. As you can see, the stairway is kind of in the middle of the room, and it comes down to that little hall there. And there's a patio door up on the north wall there. So nice open space. The stairway presented a few interesting problems for us in our initial designs, but the bottom line is we had a nice space to work with. Here's the givens that the client was interested in. We were going to do Oklahoma. We were going to do transition era. He wanted it to be a proto-freelance layout. He wants 2-level bench work around the walls with a peninsula, single track main line, and then we had a short branch line, single track branch line that we added. And that kind of came in a little later in the design process there. Some of the unique things about this design, as you'll see, again, as I said earlier, the total mainline run is about 260 linear feet. but we're only modeling a total of about 125 miles. It's about 100 miles from Oklahoma City to Ardmore, Oklahoma, and then we have a branch line that ran about 25 miles up through a town, and that's included. So that's where we got the whole 125 miles. But literally from Oklahoma City to Ardmore is just about 100 miles there. We maintained narrow bench work. We made sure that no reach-ins were further than 36 inches, and I think there's only maybe 2 of them on the whole layout there. Surprisingly, there's no elevation changes. We have a couple of them that are small changes, but Oklahoma basically is not super hilly, so building a layout with no elevations this size really didn't hurt the look of the layout at all. And what he's going to do is he's going to, as you'll see in some pictures, he's going to take where rivers are and that he'll drop the bench work down a few inches is what he'll do. We did kind of a unique thing on this one. We used the Helix to get to the upper level. We made the Helix a double track Helix, and we actually, what it did is the second track extended the real short branch line to just a little bit longer run there that made it just a little bit more believable when it was all done. Okay, here's where we're modeling from.
Bill?
Yes.
I have a question from Human City Junction, Heath. He wants to know, do you ever get into a budget when designing a budget plan when you're designing a layout that is so big? The track alone must cost several $1,000s.
You know, we can do that, but you can't do it until you get done with the layout, because at least in AnyRail or in any of these CAD programs, it'll give you a complete inventory of everything. Matter of fact, it'll even give you the inventory of how many trees I put on the layout there, that even counts the trees that are there. So yes, you could. I don't answer your question. I don't do that. Most of the clients I have that pay my prices to have me design, buying the track wasn't an issue to start with.
Okay.
And but yeah, it's easy to do. All I gotta do is push one button, and it'll give us a complete list of all the inventory of track we need, and you could literally go through it and figure out exactly to the penny what it would cost.
Right.
Do it. Okay. The dark blue line. This is a line that runs through Oklahoma, all the way through Oklahoma, comes in from the north, and it literally runs into the Gulf of Mexico and into Mexico itself. So this line is would be kind of a bridge route between Mexico and the United States there in the northern United States. Again, we're only modeling here 100 miles of this thing. The towns you see are the towns that we ended up putting on the layout there. And those are actual towns that exist in Oklahoma there. The purple line, the little short purple line you see, that's the branch line that runs out of Pauls Valley, runs back northwest a little bit there. And again, it's just a short 25-mile branch line. Some specifics: 100 miles from Oklahoma City to Ardmore, from Pauls Valley to Lindsay, Oklahoma is 24 miles. It's a north-south bridge route to the Gulf and Mexico. And the layout does interchange with the Frisco Railroad and the MKT Railroad. So it does have we do have an interchange built into this layout, so it can interchange cars with those two railroads. Research tools. And this is kind of the same as I do with every layout. I use Historical Society websites. I use railroad maps, and I use a ton of Google Earth and Google Maps.
Yeah, just to go back, Bill, not to interrupt, but Robert Holman says that at present he's designing a new layout at the moment. The top deck of 3 decks will have over 1,400 feet of track, including a yard that measures 45 by 6'4" and has 30 plus yards of track. Rough cost to track at around $3,400.
Yeah. Well, God bless you, Robert. That's a hell of an undertaking there for that size of a layout.
Yes.
The biggest one I've built is 24 by 24, and that was about as big as I wanted to build when it was all said. Because get the situation, and I tell my clients this all the time. Building is the easy part. Maintenance is the hard part.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
and it really doesn't have any maintenance. Has nothing to do with how big the layout is.
That's true.
There.
Very true.
Absolutely. So these are some of the things that I make. Where this railroad, by the way, was part of the Santa Fe Railway. That's why you see the Santa Fe Historical Society. I did get some pretty good information off of them regarding this and that, and then you can kind of see by that map I threw on there. You can kind of see where Oklahoma City is and how that line ran down to the Gulf and then on into Mexico there. This is how I tend to conceptualize the track plans. We know the cities we're going to use. We know kind of how we're going to try to get it to run through the room. So I create this line chart for myself that just kind of visually, it gives me an idea of how we're going to how I'm going to do this. And these cities that you see on here are in geographical order. That's the order they are. If you were to drive through Oklahoma, you would go through these towns in that order there. Okay, here's the start of it. This is phase one. And what we're doing here is we're trying to decide, we know we're going to have a 2-level layout. We're trying to decide about helixes first. I always try to figure out the helixes. Interesting thing here is what you'll see in the final plan, we only have one helix on this layout. We only put one helix on there, and actually got rid of the other one that was there. And that one you see in the lower left-hand corner, we were just testing to see how it would work and if it would fit and all those kind of things. But we ended up with just one helix, and it's the helix that's up at the top there on it, by just north of the door. There, we got rid of the other one. But this is just the start. This is kind of just because I was modeling here, I was designing, a layout for an actual railroad that existed. We used some railroad maps to look at these towns and see how the trackage was laid out in the towns. And that's what I did here. I laid the trackage out, and I do it in groupings like this a lot of times for this reason. And it happened on this layout also. Lots of times where I put the town initially, like Purcell, you see down at the bottom there, Purcell never ended up there. It never even come close to being there on the final plan.
Right.
But we kind of wanted Purcell to look like that somewhat. That's why I kind of put them together in groupings like you see there. And what we're trying to figure out here is the best configuration for this walk around track plan that we want. Okay, this is the same picture. All I've done is I've superimposed possible bench work fascia. Will the bench work? How much? What are our aisle widths going to be? Determining that stuff. And does the layout have a good flow to it? Does it flow well? And again, this is kind of the phase 2 of the design. Phase 3 is, this looks really, really messy, guys, and I don't apologize for it because this is what my track plans look like in the middle of the design. There, it looks terrible. You think, how does he ever get this thing figured out correctly? And so being messy, I thought I would just show you that because you can see it's not all, just nice and clean and everything fits together well. You do a lot of moving, a lot of changing, a lot of reconfiguring of things.
You mean, Bill? You mean to tell me, Bill, that you just don't go into the Magic Kingdom and just plop this down and it comes out all?
You don't stick it in the bottle, shake it up, and it comes out.
No,
that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen there. And one of the things that's kind of interesting about this layout is this is the main level I'm working on. You can see where we've got the staging yard there. Again, we're no staging underneath this layout. This is one of the layouts that I designed where the staging is on the same level as the layout. And that's what you see down there just below the stairway is the staging. The staging was being hid by just a view block, about a 12 or 15-inch tall view block would be hiding that there. And so this is kind of the messy look of the thing, but everything's kind of has a purpose that's sitting on there.
Nice.
There's the kind of the final phase of it there. And again, we're just talking about the main level now. There are some things that I'll explain to you about this while you're looking at it. We originally had thought on this layout of doing putting a lift out in if we wanted to have continuous running on the layout. And then the light bulb went off in bed one night on me, and I says, this is too big of a layout. We got a lot of square footage to deal with. We don't need to have a lift out. And I don't mind lift outs, but if I can avoid them, I'll avoid them and that. So finally what we come up with is he had this display case. You kind of see that where it says display case on that rectangular brown square up there that he had for models and stuff he wanted to put in there. And he didn't want to lose that. He wanted to keep that. So I got thinking about this and I thought, you know what? We'll come down the stairs. We'll make a left-hand turn. We'll make another left-hand turn. And we're going to walk down an aisle. And then I got the brilliant idea, or kind of brilliant, of let's make Lindsay, the branch line on it, right as you walk down that aisle, and we'll make it kind of a shadow box effect, a little bit of a shadow box effect. So when you walk into the room, the first thing you see is Lindsay on the main level. And then on the second level, I'll show you the other town we've got up there. You'll see some pictures of this on the photographs and that. But this way we completely avoided any kind of lift outs or anything. And it's free walking. The wiles are wide enough. The pinch points are actually wide enough that there's not going to be a problem for two people to pass each other. And that he fully expects this layout to be operated prototypically. And we've kind of designed it to take 5 to 7 operators to make this thing run there. And because he's a member of the club, and this club that I belong to is a pretty serious operating club, he'll have no problem getting 7 people over here to run this layout. That'll be the least of his problems.
I'd commute from Staten Island, New York there to operate on this.
Yeah. Just to kind of give you show you how things have changed on this. On the very first drawing I showed you, the town of Purcell was down along the south wall there, and that where it says Norman now. You see what we did with it. We moved it over to the left wall there, and because we needed, again, we're kind of modeling Purcell as it was shown on the railroad maps and that. And again, this is what I'm doing here is I'm checking to make sure the buildings fit, and I've designed everything correctly. Oddly enough, and this is probably one of the few layouts that I've designed that track radiuses never became a real big issue because we had so much space and we were modeling such a short distance of actual railroad. I didn't have to worry about tight radiuses, and most of the radiuses on this layout are pretty broad. And remember, he's basically doing the mid 50s era, so he's not going to be running any big equipment on this thing. Here's the second level. And this hasn't been finalized yet, but this is the level that, and what you can see is the setback, how far I set back the upper level. And you notice a lot of narrow tracking, a lot of narrow bench work up there. And you want to do that, and you need to be careful about that because of if you're standing looking down at the lower level and the upper level sticks out too far or isn't up high enough, you got to crouch down to see back into the back of the main level. And I always try to design them so that never becomes a problem.
What's the space between the top and the bottom?
About 18 inches.
Okay.
There. And I think that's what he made it. I think that's correct on it. Now, one interesting thing where you see the town where it says crusher, that's a rock crusher. It's on the branch line down there in Oklahoma. Just in front of that, you see that little bump out that was there. in the final plan, that was actually removed. That was no longer there. We made, as we always do with these plans, as we go along, we start, making adjustments and making changes. And that little bump out on the lower level, that actually went away.
Oh, okay.
In later issues. Okay. Here was a late change we made in the lower left-hand corner. On your right side is the way I designed it originally. And he had a 90-foot turntable. And at the time I originally started the design and was working on it, he said, I don't have any locomotives. I don't have anything that is bigger than what a 90-foot turntable can turn. So he says 90 foot would be fine. So I designed this area of the layout based on that 90-foot turntable. We're done. We're finished with the plan. He's building stuff. All of a sudden, he ends up purchasing a steam locomotive that he really wanted bad. Problem was, it wouldn't fit on a 90-foot turntable. So he figured out that it would fit on a 110-foot turntable. So he says, can you redesign the track plan to get that 110-foot turntable? And I said, sure, we can do that. I says, well, the interesting thing is you'll see that I moved it further to the south, and I had to do that because if you look at the before picture, a 110-foot turntable would never have fit there. Mm. And as soon as you start doing these, what looks like minor changes to the layout,
they're big ones.
This 110-foot turntable affected the main line, the yard, and Norman, Oklahoma. And some of this was 8 and 9 feet away. Take a look at Norman and look at the angle that the tracks run through Norman between the two pictures, and you'll see what I had to do.
Yeah, sure. You had to take out the spur track, and
I put in and I had to change all the angles to get that 90-degree curve in the corner to not bang into the 110-foot turntable. I always tell people little changes are always can have negative consequences in places you never even thought about having negative consequences. So that was what kind of a late change that we did on the layout. Let's go through some of these clients' pictures because some of these are very, very interesting, and he's doing a great job building this. This is when you've come down the steps and you've turned left, and then you've made another turn left to walk down that aisle between the steps and where I had the town of Lindsay. The bench work on the floor will eventually be the town of Lindsay. But what I want you to concentrate on this is where I've got the arrows drawn to stabilize this track work. Now, it would have been fine. He didn't have to do this. This is a little bit of overkill, but there's nothing wrong with doing it this way. He added support posts up into the ceiling there, but then he covered them up, and he covered them with drywall and painted them. They look like they've always been there.
Wow.
They look like they're part of the ceiling.
Yeah.
So I thought, and I would have never thought of that. I thought that was a pretty slick and pretty cool way of doing it there. When you go down there and you touch those walls, they don't move. They don't go anywhere at all. Now we turned around 180 degrees. We're inside the layout. We're looking back towards the workshop there. The patio door is on your left there. And now you're kind of standing inside the layout here and that. And this is the main deck that he's building. This is the main level, so to speak.
I like the fact that he built the decking. He boxed them and then built them and fitted them in.
Well, and remember what this gentleman has done, and I highly recommend it to everybody. He came to my layout 2 or 3 times looking at it. He went to a lot of the club members' layouts, and he completely absorbed everything that we had done. And then he picked out those things that he thought would work on his layout here and that. But for a gentleman that is basically 3 or 4 years into the hobby, I think he's doing just an incredible job with this.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Now, this is the idea I gave him for supporting because this is what I've done on my last 2 railroads I've built. I take 2x2 lumber and I screw it to the walls there. And if it's a 2-level layout like this one is, you make them long enough to support both levels. Then you add that bracing underneath the bench work, going back into the 2x2, and don't go to the floor. You don't even have to go to the floor. All you have to go is like he did here, and you would be amazed at how sturdy that bench work is. And the key issue to it is there's no legs on the floor.
Yeah, more room underneath.
There's all kinds of room underneath, and if you get underneath there, you aren't banging into a leg that's always going to be in the wrong spot when you're climbing under the layout there. And the 3 pieces you see on the floor are parts of the Helix that I'll be showing you pictures of that here coming up, and that. But around the outside walls, this is how he built all the bench work around the outside. You'll see that in more pictures coming up. Here's the Helix being the sub base of the Helix being built there. He used good lumber. He's done a really good job of the support. If you look down on the floor there, you can see how stable he's made this bench work.
Also notice that he drew on the floor where the layout was going to be.
That's right. Oh yeah, you always want to do that. I tend to forget about that. That's kind of a given, really. There. Also, you see over there on the left side, that's actually a little layout he built, just a switching layout. Again, what he did, that I thought was really a smart idea. He actually took that switching layout, and once he had the main level in, he put the switching layout up there temporarily just to see if the distance that we had decided to make the levels, if that was going to work. Did it work so you could see back on the main level? Was it not so high that people couldn't see the track work up there and that? And he established again a certain distance that I think the bottom line, when you take the bench work into consideration too, is probably about 15 inches from main level up to the box frame of the bench work there. But from railhead to railhead, it's actually about 18 inches on most of them that we do. Also on this Helix, what he did, which was really, really smart, was he put that access hatch in there in case he had to get in.
What is he going to use as a sub road blade? What is he going to put on top of that?
We out here in Colorado, we buy a product called Mycor. Other parts of the country, it would be called Homosote.
Right.
Out here, the product name is Mycor, and what we like about it, when I say we, the other modelers out here, and that it's a little bit denser than Homosote, and it holds spikes. If you're a hand laying track work, it holds spikes very well.
Good. Yeah, that sounds good.
And it's not necessarily cheap. I think when I was buying it, it was about $30 for a 4x8 sheet.
I think it's about $53, $58 now.
Yeah, it's probably doubled by now and that. So now what he's done is he's taken and he's cutting the Helix out. And what he did is he cut it into quarters. There's four pieces per turn on there. And he kind of just set it there to make sure, okay, is everything working? Is the access hatch going to be right? And all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And this is him starting the Helix. And this is a pretty simple way to build it. You just use 1x4 blocks, and you always want to have a 4-inch separation in HO between your turns. So you just cut those 1x4s to 4 inches tall, and long as they all match in that. And what he did on the bottom, if you notice there, to get the grade started right, you can see as he goes around, each one of those pieces underneath, those supports underneath, got just a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger. and that was all calculated out so that I think we ended up on this one. I think we put in a 2.1, 2.2 grade on this Helix here. There. There's the first turn is done, and anybody that's built a Helix, this is the thing you remember the most. You go, I got one done. I only got 4.5 to go.
Yeah, right.
There, but it's the thing people remember. I always think about this when I see these pictures there. But that's his first turn. Now we're through the second turn, and like I always tell people, don't forget to lay your track before you start the next turn. There, you gotta lay track as you go on this thing.
Yeah.
But again, this is a simple way to build. The reason you see so much bench work out from the edge of the Helix is because we have track running around there. There's actually the branch line runs partway around there, and that. There's almost the finished product. There, he's up to almost where the second level is going to be. There, all the track is laid. I'm pretty sure he'd done the wiring. Maybe he hadn't done the wiring yet, but I know all the track was in there. And there's, looking at it the other direction, where it comes up onto the second level there and ties in.
Nice.
The lines you see on the curve sections, I'll show you later in the program how he did that and how accurate it was. And it is the coolest little tool that he made to do this. And it's really simple, stupid, but I would have never thought of it. And it's extremely accurate in what he did. And there's the Helix that's covered up. Now, what he's done with this since this picture is he's added some little round circles that are cutouts on each level. So you, as an operator, you can stand there, and if you're worried about your train, all you got to do is look in one of the peepholes, and you can see your train going around it.
Sam Dickinson wants to know, what's the radius of the track on the Helix?
I think we went with 26 or 28. I honestly, I'd have to go look at the plan to tell you for sure, but it is, I think, and again, understand on this one, I don't think we did 24. I'm almost positive we didn't do 24. We might have done 26 or 28. Again, we're doing 1955, basically, late or mid 50s, very early 60s. So we didn't have 85-foot box cars. We didn't have things we had to worry about like that. So the Helix in this particular case was almost a non-issue. We could have chosen about any radius we wanted on it there.
And what is that? Is that Mylar? What is that type of material? That's
I know that what he's just used there is masonite.
Oh, masonite.
Yeah, he just used masonite on it there, and it's again. I'll be eating breakfast with him tomorrow morning. Matter of fact, and I always congratulate him that for somebody that's new to the hobby, he's really picked up on things quickly here.
Yeah, he has.
He really, really has. Okay, this is the other room. Now, this is on the other side of that stairwell there. And what you're seeing here is you're seeing the same benchwork, the same construction here. And the neat thing about this is it doesn't make any difference how wide the benchwork gets. You can still build it the same way. All that changes is that that angled support 2x2 just gets a little longer. Right,
exactly. I love the box idea of with the framing it and then laying it on top as he goes along.
Yes, yeah, it's not a true L girder design.
Right
there, and we didn't really need to be building and worrying about L girder on this one because basically the layout is flat.
Right, true.
We don't have a lot of elevation changes or anything like that.
Yeah, Robert Holloman says, I'm planning my Helix for an inside radius of 36 inches and an outside radius of 38. It's going to be a double track as well.
Robert, I'll give you a little situation, and you're going to be perfectly fine with those kind of radiuses. But I built a staging yard for a gentleman where the multiple tracks were on the turnback of the staging yard. They were at the end of a peninsula. And as each turnback got to be a little tighter radius, a little tighter radius, a little tighter radius. Well, the gentleman had assured me that this was the freight equipment and engines he was running. So I built the turnback staging yard on 2¼ inch center line to center line, and I thought that would be fine. I got a really nasty email and pictures of his trains sideswiping each other on these curves that were 2¼ inch spacing. And I don't remember the radiuses, but what he had done to me is he'd went and bought much longer power than he said. He even went and bought some 65 and 85 foot box cars.
Well, then, you
So,
know,
yeah, and I explained to him, I says, I built it and designed it based on what you told me you were going to run. Did I correct it? Sure. I corrected it, and we got it right and everything. Okay. But what I'm doing now on whether I design the layouts for my clients or for affordable model railroads, they're on HO scale, they're modern era. I don't really care what the radiuses are. We've gone to 2½ inch center line spacing. And that appears to solve most of our problems. We don't run into them anymore. But the NMRA, sometimes if you read their standards, they're almost getting a little obsolete on some of them there. And when you're a designer like me, you literally got to create your own standards, because you find out real quick in the real world what works and what doesn't work.
Is that true? That is so true.
But again, here's the same bench work that you just seen, just looking at it from a slightly different angle there. And the fact that he drilled all the holes into the bench work to run the wires through before he put it down, that's not a novice's situation. You got to be kind of experienced and went through it a few times. But he learned by looking at other layouts how to do this.
Robert says, thank you for the advice, Bill.
Okay. Well, it was more a story, Robert, than it was advice. But if you just stay at 2½ inches on anything, actually the size you're talking about at 38 inches, I really honestly think you could come down to 2-inch spacing. And I still think you'd be perfectly fine. I think 38 inches is a lot. That's a big turnback. That's a big radius there. Okay. This is just a picture of some more of the bench work and him putting it together. This is what he did for the upper level, which I thought was kind of ingenious there. He bought these L brackets and he put one L bracket on either side. And that's all that supports that upper level. But remember, folks, the upper level is not very wide. Most places it's under 18 inches. A lot of places it's under 12 inches wide. And that, so there's not a lot of weight that it had to support in that. There's an under view of the upper level in with with those supports and everything. The thing that I've enjoyed with him doing, because again, I see it fairly often, is he thinks simple. He doesn't think complicated. He doesn't try to overcomplicate something.
Right. He doesn't overthink.
Doesn't overthink it. He just absolutely does not overthink it. And that, which is a great trait to have. It really is. Another little thing he came up with, we have, this is the turn loop goes into staging on the main level, and up above it is the turn loop that goes into the upper staging level along that wall. He put a pipe in and actually connected the pipe to the floor there, and that center pipe supports that upper level. And all he's going to do to give it a little stability is he's going to add some, I don't know if he's going to use threaded rod or what he's going to use, 2 or 3 places around the outside perimeter of this to keep the upper level so it doesn't tip a little bit one way or the other. But I kind of thought that was kind of an ingenious way to do it.
Yeah.
Again, that's not overbuilding it by any stretch of imagination.
No, not at all.
You know. Okay, now we're seeing it with some of the backdrops in there. And what I wanted to show you on this picture is he put the bench work up and then figured out where the bridges were going to be, and then cut out the bench work and lowered it to where the bridges were going to be. He didn't try to overthink where the bridges were going to be at.
Right.
And so again, simple, smart thing to do there on it. There it is where he's test fitting the bridges that are going to go into that spot. And it's going to look good. It's going to look fine.
Absolutely.
When it gets done there. And yeah, he's killed a little bit of a view on the lower level back in there by lowering it. But in this particular area on the design, there's just some track back there that goes into the Helix to go up to the second level there. So there's no buildings back there or anything. It's just going to be scenery.
Yeah. Also on the columns, if you go back to that last picture, also on the columns that he put into the ceiling, he's framed them out to look like they've been there forever, like they're built into the layout.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing he did that is, again, just little touches that you don't think about. He put a cap on this.
Yeah. I was just going to say,
you just put a cap on top of it. Just cleans it up, makes it look clean. And that little things make big differences.
Yep.
Now this is a picture of where he's putting the lighting under the second deck to light up the main deck there.
Right.
And what did he use? He just used LED strips there and just ran them through those pre-cut holes that he'd already cut in there.
Yeah. Yep.
And again, simple way to do it, not overthinking it, not complicated by any stretch.
I like his connectors to the main feed there.
I forgot to ask him the other day when we ate breakfast. I'm going to ask him tomorrow morning what those are, because I've never seen those before. Those are kind of new to me.
Yeah, they're nice. Clean looking.
Yeah, it is kind of a interesting way to do it. And that. Now here's an area where some of the people will be kind of interested. He's got the railroad divided into three power districts. I'm going to take a quick drink here, guys. These are the panels that the back panels that he's building for the boosters and all the wiring he's going to need to power the layout in three separate districts there. So this is him getting the bench work, the panels built for that. There it is, finished with all the wiring on it. And what he's doing here, he's just kind of testing to make sure everything is working with each other there. But again, this amazes me, because we're talking about somebody who's less than 5 years in the hobby. And to be able to think these things through like this, I'm very impressed with this. And there's a close-up view of it where he's running a couple engines, just testing them to see if everything's working like it's supposed to work there.
Now this is an HO scale layout.
This is HO scale. That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
This is HO. Now the funny thing, and I think I'm correct on this. He'll correct me tomorrow morning if I'm wrong. I don't think he's got wireless on this layout. I think this whole layout he'll have plugins along the fascia. I think, maybe I could be wrong on that. I'm not for sure on that, but there it is. If you go back to this one, see the wires are kind of just strung out in places. Well, now when he finally installs it, look what happened to all the wiring.
Yes.
It's clean. It looks nice. It's, did a great job.
He did. Very nice.
Very nice job on this. Now, this is something that we kind of taught him. I say we, people in our club, when he's putting masonite up, one of the problems is those uprights are usually spaced out so far apart that your masonite backdrops will warp on that. So what he did is he just took strips of 2x2s, put them on the wall. That masonite is not going to warp.
No.
It's going to be perfectly fine there. Just another little trick. and there's the room that's south of the stairway with all the masonite up. And you'll notice, look how sharp of curves he's got in that masonite over in that one corner.
Yeah.
Those are really sharp. And I think he did that by just soaking the masonite.
Sure.
And then,
Absolutely.
and keeping it in that shape until it dried, and it ended up drying in that.
Derek Alexander tells us that that's a Positap. I use Positap's connectors
Those
before I learned.
connectors are?
Yeah,
Okay.
before I learned to solder.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had never. Matter of fact, I still haven't seen them because I haven't really looked under the layout when I've been over here to see. But I will next time just to see what they are. I thought it was kind of interesting. But what he's done here.
Let me ask you a question. This is probably this is a unique experience for you. This is something that you designed, but also can take a walk over and see your design being put and implemented.
Literally, that's right. And for me, what it does, Bill, is it confirms for me that, okay, this is what I conceptualized. We drew it. He paid me for it, and now it's coming to fruition.
Right.
And it's working. I don't think we've made. Well, I know we have made no major changes to this at all. Very few, a few more things I talked about earlier, but very minor and changes that we've done with this thing and that. But now this is where you're looking back towards where you would walk into the room. This is the shadow box effect he's going to do here, and this was kind of, I came up with this idea of having this two towns, one on top of each other, and they're just little towns that are switching towns. A train will run over there, it'll switch, and then it'll leave the town and go back.
Right.
Go back to, and in this case, it'll go back to either Doherty or another town there. And the thing that is really going to look good, because he's further along than these pictures show on this, is when you come down those stairs and you turn and you come down that aisle and you see this is the first thing you see on the layout there. It's really a cool scene. It doesn't overpower you. It isn't so big that you know, and you only see this. This is all you see of the layout when you walk in, is just this. And I'm going to try to incorporate this in some more of my plans when I'm able to do it, because as this is turning out, it's really looking good. I think it's going to be great there.
Derek Alexander asked, are you tempted to change things when you go there while he is building?
No. My theory is, I do what they want to do. They're spending their money with me. I can advise them. But great example, Derek. I'm working on one for affordable model rails, or I'm going to start working on one for affordable. The guy tells us that he can run his steam locomotives on 24-inch radiuses. And James has told him, you don't want to do that. And he says the manufacturer says they'll run on 22-inch radiuses, and I've run them on 24, and I don't have any problem. So I'm talking to James last night on the phone. I says, James, this is where you and I kind of part ways on some of this stuff. I says, I'll design it with 24-inch radiuses and that, but I'm not guaranteeing anything here on this thing. And James says, I'm not going to guarantee him anything. He's the one that told us that 24 would be fine. And so I don't try to change anything. And actually, sometimes I get a little surprised at myself, and I kind of go, hey, that worked out pretty good. How did I do that? That was an accident that happened. Then I kind of joked about this, of what you see on the side. There's this town up here is about 15 feet long, and he's got about 15 feet of track laid. He's only got 245 more feet of track to lay. So
there you go.
He doesn't have too far to go.
No, not at all.
Now this is where he is laying out the town of Doherty, I think it is, up on the second level. And what he's doing, and I'm okay with this, I don't have any problem with it. He is printing these out with his inkjet printer there off of the AnyRail. He has the AnyRail software, and he's printing these out on 8.5 by 11s. But he says how he's saving money on cartridges is he's printing everything in draft mode. So it uses about half the amount of ink. And he told me that he's got probably, I think he's approaching right now, probably 25 to 30% of the trackage is down. And he says he's only gone through 2 cartridges and 1 ream of paper. Now, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, no, it is.
To print this, but this is the right way to do it, because then he knows how to line it up.
Derek Alexander says, laugh out loud, basically. Why hire an expert and not listen to his advice?
Well, believe me, Derek, it happens a lot. So some people, Derek, maybe this is not a kind way to say it, but some people are the smartest people in the room.
And my reply to that is they're in the wrong room.
Yeah. Some people are there. Here's some cool tips and tools that this gentleman has figured out. And again, this kind of stuff just blows my mind, because again, we're talking about basically a newbie to this model railroading hobby. He went out and bought paving bricks because they were cheap to buy. And he says that will keep the foam down to dry. And he says, I get no lift ups, no bumps in the foam. It's perfectly flat. He does it that way. And I says, that is literally simple, stupid.
Yep.
And he says, plus, my wife will figure out something to use those paving bricks for after the layout's built.
Right.
She'll have a project for me. But I thought that was kind of a cool idea. Here's I think I may have skipped over one here. Let me go back a minute. No, I guess not. Maybe it's coming up. Here's something that I've done for years, and I don't even know who taught me this, but it's a great way to build a helix here. And it's got nothing to do with those metal strips that you see. It has all to do with that screw and washer that's between the tracks there. That is Atlas Code 83 Flex Track. If you go to Home Depot or Lowe's or a hardware store and you buy, I think it's the number 8 flathead screw. And I think it's 1/2 inch or something. But if you buy that screw and you buy the washer that is just a little bit bigger than it needs to be, that flathead screw will almost end up flush with the surface of that washer. And the cool thing about this is the washer is almost exactly the right diameter that when you lay it in there, the plastic tie spikes on the flex track, there's just a little bit of room between those and the outside edge of that washer. And what you do here is you don't lock this down tight. You take, and what I've done on mine, and I told Chuck to do on this one, you tighten it down till the track doesn't move, and then you turn it a quarter of a turn back out. So the track shifts just a little bit in there.
Right.
What that helps is expansion.
Right.
Now, here in Colorado, because we got quite a bit of low humidity, expansion and contraction is really not a big problem for us out here. But other parts of the country, it's a big deal.
Right.
But you don't glue the track down. You don't have to do anything to secure it. Just those screws of every foot or so take care. There's a top-down view of it, what it looks like. And I learned that trick about 2 layouts ago, and I think it's a great way to do it, because and the neat thing about this is if you decide to ever tear the layout out or move it or something, all this track is savable because none of it's glued down.
Yeah, true. Very true. Very true.
Okay. This is kind of, this is so simple, stupid. It's actually sinful to me. That's how he was making sure as he was building the levels of the helix that he was staying square. And I thought, yeah, duh. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, sure.
I wonder if there's anybody out there watching this could guess what he did with these. This is it's not PVC pipe, but it's like PVC pipe there. And you see he's he's cut it on an angle at both ends there. And you look at it and you go, what would he be doing with that? Well,
Right.
again, I never would have figured this out. I'm not that smart. Look at what he did.
Oh, use it to run the wire
Run the wire.
as a channel.
Yep. Again, as I say on here, I think that's pretty cool.
Yes.
I think that's a pretty slick idea to do on that. Because otherwise you got to get underneath there and you got to staple the wire to the side of that 2x2 and all here, just screw, put this thing against it. I think he just glued it to the side of the 2x2. I think
Sure. Yeah.
just,
Robert Holman says if you glue your track down, use an Elmer's type glue so that you can remove it later and reuse it.
yeah. What we use out here, and everybody out, different parts of the country, everybody talks to everybody, and if one thing works, everybody copies it.
Sure.
That's the thing. So what we're using out here is we're using latex caulk on this. That's made by, I think DAP makes it, and then there's a Loctite makes the one I use. It's by Loctite, and I buy the clear.
Yeah, I use that too.
Yeah, and I like it. You can still pick the track up. You have to be a little careful, but you can pick the track up. But you don't have to use any water or anything on it there. And the thing that I like about it is it's sticky enough that when you start laying track, you can lay a section of flex track and get it hooked up at one end. And as you start laying it on this caulking, this adhesive caulking there, it sticks pretty good. You don't even,
Yeah.
I still use pins in places, but you almost don't have to. The thing I like about it is I buy the clear. It goes on white so you can see what you're doing, but it dries perfectly clear.
Yes, it does.
And it just looks good when it's done.
Yeah.
Now there's probably the coolest tool I've seen there. That's how he drew his radius lines on the helixes levels there.
Nice.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, very innovative.
Very innovative. There's another close-up picture of it there. And that is so simple, stupid when you think about it there, that and as long as your radiuses are correct on the inside there, your pencil radius are going to be fine.
Yeah.
Perfect. And certainly good enough to lay track on.
Mm-hmm.
All said and done. Another little tool that another little jig that he put together to cut the curved parts of the bench work there. And I thought, again, simple but effective there. Now we're coming to the last picture here, guys, and I want you to pay attention to this because that's Gus, and Gus is the project foreman for this area.
Sidewalk supervisor.
He's the sidewalk supervisor, and he comes down and he gets up there and he sits there and he watches as Chuck's building this thing. And I kidded Chuck. I said to Chuck, I says, "This is all fun and games now, Chuck, until you got the scenery up there."
Yeah.
I says, and then he's going to be pissed because he can't sit there anymore because the scenery's in the way.
Yeah.
So anyway, guys, that is the show, and I'll be happy to go back and show you any of the pictures and answer any questions you might have.
Well, Trains, Robert Ullman says Elmer's glue again does the same thing as long as you use thin coats.
Yes.
Trains Love writes, Elmer's will dry hard and transfer sound from the rail to the roadbed and beyond. Mod Podge is much better as it has more elasticity to it, as so does matte medium, but it's just a little bit more expensive. Robert replies to Translove, I haven't had that problem. I have it set from top to bottom as follows: track, Elmer's, WS foam, roadbed, Elmer's, XPS foam, sheet, wood. Okay. Oh, Lover. I'm sorry. Trains Lover. It's the LUVR. My apologies.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and again, none of these are wrong.
No, no, not at all.
There's nothing right or wrong about this.
I think anything that works for you and
If it
that
works for
benefits
you.
you, you know, good
Yeah.
God bless, man. Go for it.
I think I always think about this because I think you're using Elmer's glue because, well, first it's extremely cheap and it's easy to work with, and I totally understand that. But if your primary objective with it is to be able to put water on it and get it back up again, I always wonder, well, was there something wrong with the track plan, or that you weren't sure about that was going to work? Because for me, when I'm charging the kind of dollars I charge people, they don't even think about pulling it up because they assume that if I've designed it that way, that's the way it should be and it should work.
Well,
excuse me.
That's all right.
But no, the white glue. What I've never understood. Maybe Robert can enlighten me here a little bit, because I haven't used Elmer's glue for 30 years on laying track. What happens to it when you start ballasting? There, I understand that the glue will dry eventually and make it hard. But I've always wondered, is there a tendency for it to move around while you're waiting for the ballast glue to dry?
That's an interesting. He says nothing.
Okay. There. But anyway, again, I thought this was an interesting layout to see for someone who is very new to the hobby, but doing an extremely good job.
Andy Crawford says it all depends on if your roadbed is absorbent. With caulk, you don't want to make it rigid. If you're using foam, it won't hurt. With Homosode, I don't want anything that soaks in and makes it rigid.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff.
Yeah, like and that I guess that makes a point for the adhesive caulk, because it doesn't soak into anything. Now, if you try to pull it up off of Homosode, that you're not going to do that.
Yeah. Train Lover says, Lover says, using matte medium and Mod Podge, matte will dry clear, and matte, of course. And
Sure.
Robert Holloman says, and of course, Andy shows up in the last 2 minutes.
Yeah. Well, Andy's a listener.
Yeah. Andy's a listener. That's the first time I've ever heard that. Yeah. But yeah, okay.
Well, except when he's doing his show. He's like me.
Yeah.
The trouble
Andy
with
Crawford says
Andy and I,
he says he's been here since the beginning.
I know he has. Trouble with Andy and I is if we were on the same show together, we would be in a fight over who got to talk the most.
Well, that's why
we both have things to say. We both like.
Of course, that's why I'm there. That's why I'm there to separate.
Now, here's my question to the guys that are left watching this. I can do a fourth show, and that's not a problem. The fourth show would be on a layout. It's an N scale layout that I designed for a gentleman back east. That is a true point-to-point railroad. They're open staging on one end and open staging on the other end. And the gentleman has been sending me, I've got hundreds of pictures of this N scale layout, and he's done the same thing. He's done a very, very good job of building it. And he's always been complimentary to me about how the track plan worked out well, and he wouldn't change a thing. I would be happy to do that one because I've got all the stuff to put it together. If the folks watching would like to see a fourth one.
We are having, as you're speaking, overwhelming consensus of yes, do it.
Okay.
So
it'll be. I'll let them know too. It'll be the last one for the summer, because starting April 5th, my golf league starts, and I run a golf league with 85 to 90 people in it, and it takes up a lot of time. And my track planning business is crazy, stupid good. And that right now I'm actually working on 12 different plans as we sit here now. So I will put that one together for us for next month, for April. Bill and I'll decide on what date works best for him there, but I'll put that together, and you'll enjoy that because this one is one you'll see what completely done, almost all the scenery's on it, buildings are on it, and you'll see it from conception to literally the finished product is what you'll see.
Randall Ellis would like to know, I was wondering, have you ever built layouts for people where all they want to do is just really, really, really run long trains?
Oh yeah. Oh, I take that back. Right? I haven't designed many of those on there because there's yeah, I can I design one? Obviously, yes, I can design one, but it doesn't trip my imagination. It doesn't challenge me at all. And if somebody wants to pay me to design it, I'll do it there on there. But I'm willing to take their money. But when I sit back and think about it, I thought, well, this is, in my mind, this is pretty simple in what you're going to do if you just want to watch trains run. I'll make a statement here that I think is an absolutely true statement because I'm 75 years old. I've been in the hobby for over 60 years there, and I've been through all the phases of the hobby. I was around when DCC wasn't even thought about there. And as soon as DCC came in, this hobby changed forever because all of a sudden now you could run trains and operate trains like a real railroad. And that's what tripped my trigger was now I could design layouts that were like the real railroad and would function like the real railroad. What I have found out about this is people that own and people that design and people that build rail fanning layouts where all they want to do is watch 45 car trains run around the room in maybe some convoluted circle, but it's still just a circle. They're still just going around the room. Their trains aren't going anywhere. They're not doing anything. They're just running around the room. I have seen many of those layouts only last usually less than 5 years, and hardly ever do they last 10 years. And the reason for that is people get bored with watching trains run around in circles there. I don't care who you are. It doesn't hold your interest as long as you might think it does there. And one of the ways I can prove this is I operate on a layout out here that was in Alan Keller's Great Model Railroads. It was number 8 that Alan Keller had done, and he'd done 66 videos over the course of his business. This layout was number 8, so to give you an idea how far back it was. Alan was only doing 2 layouts a year, at the most 3. So when you go from number 8 and he ended up doing 66, it gives you a pretty good idea how far back this was. That layout still exists in the same location. I operate on it. It takes 8 to 10 of us to operate it on a Saturday there. It was designed and built with operations in mind, and the layout is over 30 years old. And we have just as much fun today, 7 or 8 of us, running a 30-year-old layout built for operations as people did when that layout was a year old.
Right. Yeah, makes sense.
And so I contend, and I'll contend till the day I die, that rail fanning layouts are fine. I don't want to belittle anybody.
Right.
But just understand that probably in 5 years or less, sometimes you're going to grow tired of it.
Late Night Model Railroad wants to know, did you create any of the example train schedule diagrams for this layout? He says, I love the ones you created for the previous ones you showed.
Well, those were just great. I'm embarrassed to tell you, I'm not sure which what I used. I think I used AnyRail to create those. I think I did, and that. Is he talking about the line drawing I did, or where I showed where the trains were going to do and how they were going to function there?
I think the last show you did, you did a diagram or what do you call it, timetable kind of thing of like where they went, how they came about.
Right. Okay. The reason you didn't see it on this one here is because we're not sure exactly yet what we're going to do for operations. I'm gonna write up a full operating procedure for this layout you folks just seen here, and that. But what Chuck and I will have to do is we're going to have to sit down, and Chuck's going to have to tell me, what trains he wants to run on this thing. Because again, this is a prototype. And there were certain trains that ran on there, and because he lived in Oklahoma and he lived by this railroad, he's much more knowledgeable about it than I am. So he'll tell me. What I will do is I will put together the operating session and try to have it set up for schedule. And believe me, we'll know if this works because there's already about 5 or 6 guys that are just constant at the bit to operate on this when he gets it fully.
Oh, I'm sure they are. Randall Ellis says not only has DCC changed the game, so have the locomotives.
Oh,
they're becoming even more powerful and realistic. I'm old enough barely to remember a loco that could just pull 20 to 30 cars was strong.
Yeah. Well, to show you how old I am, Randall, one of my first HO locomotives was either an F3 or an F7, and the gear train on it was a rubber band.
Yeah, I remember those. My uncle used to have those. Yeah.
Yeah. He's exactly right. DCC was the major change, and today the quality of the equipment, and this is really true for N scale, because years and years ago, N scale, some of those locomotives, if you got them to run 20 feet without bucking a little bit, you were doing really, really good. Yeah. Today, a lot of those run very well. They run as well as HO does.
Hey, just want to. So we're going to do a what do you call it? We're going to do a part 4 show of what the track planner is working on, and Bill and I will get together and get the schedule and get a date for it, and then we'll announce it on Facebook as well as YouTube as when the next show will be.
Right.
And thank you so much, Bill, for doing this. And also, just a public service announcement to all you guys out there. I just want to give you a heads up that we usually do an after hours, like after the show and during the week. We used to do it on whereby.com. We're no longer doing it on whereby. If you'll notice in the Q&A, there's a link to. We're going to Discord now. And it seems to be a little bit better, much better, and we can get a lot more people on it. So if you're interested, like after the show, and you want to jump over there, you can. That's where you can stay in touch with us in regards to what we're doing and how we're doing it. And, it's Discord right there. Just check it out. And Bill, I want to thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedule to help us.
I enjoy doing these, and I want to thank the people that watched, and especially the people that asked questions, because that's where everybody learns.
Yes.
Everybody can sit there and listen to me rattle on and prattle, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. But the questions, they help me too.
Yeah,
really
sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And going into the thing here, like I said, the track planner is available. If you have a question, please feel free to email him. He'd more than happy to help you out with, some ideas. And if you ran into a problem, if you're designing your own layout. So once again, Bill, thank you so much. The track planner at www.thetrackplanner.com. Check him out. And also, just to give you guys a heads up, tomorrow night is Johnny's Train Talk show. That will be airing at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where you guys can mosey on down to John's train shop. There is a little shack there. Pull a cold beverage out of the cooler, pull up a chair around the checkers table, and talk about model railroading. and anything related. If you two want to get on like we're doing right here, you can also do that as well. And if you have a camera, webcam, and an internet, a good internet, you can be on, bring and brag. If you have something you want to show off, by all means, please do. And on Saturday night is Andy Crawford, his show with his two special sidekicks there, Robert Holloman and Ralph the Mudfather Renzetti will be on. They'll be talking about a bridge that Andy's designing and building for his layout. Hopefully, I'm going to be there. I thought I was going to be involved in some kind of construction thing in my house, but that may have been put on the back burner for a while. So hopefully, I can be the moderator of that show and direct traffic there. We're going to see what's happening. But anyway, that's the Build Show with Andy Crawford and his two accomplices, Robert Holloman and Ralph Renzetti. So that's it for us here at Model Railroading Live. And this was what is the track planner working on? Tomorrow is St. Patrick's Day. So happy St. Patrick's Day to all of you guys. If you're going to go out drinking, drink responsibly. If you're not, don't. Don't forget, drinking, driving is not a good thing. Give your keys to a friend. Give a designated person there. Okay? Do the right thing. Do the responsible thing because we want you around. All right? And what else? That's it. So you be well, you be safe, but most of all, you be blessed. And we'll see you guys on the radio. Take care.